Night Terror in France by Amanda. The roads twisted endlessly, vanishing into darkness. I had been driving for hours, exhaustion weighing heavy on my body. My vision was blurred, and my hands were stiff on the wheel. I needed to stop. Finally, I spotted a rest stop, a gravel lot, 2 flickering streetlights, and a few skinny trees swaying in the wind. It felt abandoned, forgotten. A shiver crept up my spine. I ignored it. "Mum, do we have to stop here?" Dan mumbled, his tiny voice wavering with sleep. His hoodie was pulled over his head, his face barely visible in the dim light. "Yes, love. Just for a few hours." He sighed but didn't argue. He was just as tired as I was. I parked the camping car and double-checked the locks. Our routine was automatic. Bed set up, doors secured, valuables tucked away. Dan's bed was the folded-down dining table in the front. I slept in the back, close enough to hear him breathe. "No scary stories tonight, okay?" I whispered, tucking him in with his favourite blanket. He grinned sleepily. "You're the one who tells them, Mum." I smiled, smoothing his hair. "Hush, sleep." The night swallowed us. Silence. A car passed on the distant road. The wind rattled the trees. The air inside the camper grew thick and warm, cocooning me in sleep. Then, a scream. Dan's scream. My eyes snapped open. My heart lurched. My brain fumbled between dream and reality. Another sound. Rustling. A creak. Movement. I bolted upright. Dan was pressed against the wall, his body rigid with fear. The camping car door was open, wide open. A figure loomed over him, rifling through the glove box. Papers fluttered to the floor. My purse. A thief. Number? Not just a thief. My stomach clenched. How had he gotten inside? I grabbed the bat from under my bed. My grip was slick with sweat. My pulse pounded in my ears. "Get away from my son!" My voice was raw and low. The man froze. The dim light cast jagged shadows over his face. His hood was low and his gloves were tight. His hesitation was his mistake. I lunged, grabbing the pepper spray from my bedside pouch. My fingers fumbled. Too slow. Too late. No. Now I pressed the nozzle. A sharp hiss. A strangled scream. He staggered back, clawing at his face. He swore, voice raw with pain. I didn't stop. I swung the bat, my arms trembling with adrenaline. Crack! A sickening thud as wood met bone. His scream turned to a garbled howl. "Mom!" Dan sobbed, curled up tight, hands over his ears. "It's okay, baby. Close your eyes." The man stumbled, blind, disoriented. I kicked him hard in the chest. He fell backward, hit the gravel hard. For a second, he didn't move. Then he groaned, rolling onto his front, breath ragged. He swore and staggered to his feet. I slammed the door and locked it, hands shaking, knees weak. Dan buried his face in my arms, body trembling. "Mum, what if he comes back?" I swallowed hard. My mouth was dry. "He won't." I wasn't sure that was true. I reached for the keys with numb fingers. I needed to get out of here. Now, starting the engine, I pulled out of the lot, my heart hammering against my ribs. My eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. The road stretched behind us, empty. Was he alone? Had he been watching us? How long had he been waiting? I gripped the wheel tighter. The questions clawed at my mind, but I pushed them away. I found a truck stop a few kilometres up the road and parked under the bright lights. Safe, safer. But the unease churning in my stomach wouldn't fade. I called the French emergency number. My voice was steady, almost detached. The words came automatically. Someone broke in. I fought him off. My son is safe. But my hands were still trembling. The officers who came to the scene were friendly. They explained that there had been several break-ins of camping cars in the area. The thieves were using decoding devices to pick the locks. Stay safe and don't sleep in isolated places, they advised before heading to look for the intruder. The following day, I took Dan to the hardware store. I bought a heavy-duty chain, a padlock, and an internal lock for the side door. Back at the camping car, I threaded the chain through the front doors, clipping them together. I screwed the internal lock into place. No device in the world would allow them to break in now. I stood back and exhaled. Dan watched me. His tiny hands clutched his favourite blanket. His eyes were dark with worry. I forced a smile. No one's getting in again. I hoped it was true. I glanced around the parking lot. We weren't taking any more chances. From now on we were sleeping safely, or not at all. Well, wasn't she a brave young woman standing her ground to protect her boy from that thief in the night? I'll tell you, after hearing that story, I made sure to double-check the locks on my gypsy van, adding bells on each door. If you're ever sleeping out overnight, here's a word of advice. Check the locks.